Oh shit, we're live. We are live. All right. What do I got here? Am I live on Facebook? What is up, everyone? What the fuck is up? I don't know why I just cursed like that right from the beginning for no reason. I'm not angry, I swear. I just I just came out strong with an F bomb. Anyways, welcome to Tim Stoddard's FM. My name is Tim Stoddard. Thank you so much for joining me. I had a little bit of a mishap recently. I got to tell you guys a quick story. I had the coolest guests in for an interview this weekend. It was two women named Jamie and Max, and they own a farm and they had a landscaping company that was essentially run by bringing goats around and allowing goats to graze, I guess you would say, and essentially do landscaping. And they turned that business into a goat yoga studio. It's kind of outdoor yoga sessions that a bunch of, fucking young hipsters in East Nashville are doing. And from what people have told me about the experience, it's like a real amazing experience and it's a great time. And these two women were talking about their business and how like inspiring it is to them and how these beautiful like gentle animals can play such a role in people's healing processes. And aside from that, the interview was really cool because Max especially is a farmer and she appreciates these goats from much more of like an ecological standpoint because goats have like these four different chambers in their stomachs, she taught me, and so they can eat things and digest things that are usually like very destructive, like poison ivy and poison oak and parasitic vines that grow on trees. And so because of that, their poop basically creates this really good rich fertilizer. And so she was coming at it from a farmer's standpoint, like an agricultural standpoint. And so between talking about the goat yoga and talking about the agriculture and talking about their business and their growth and like how they plan to scale the thing and how it's taken off, it was seriously my favorite conversation that I've had so far. These two women were so freaking cool. And lo and behold, midway through the podcast, without my knowledge, Alice, my shithead pit bull, ate through my mic cord. If you just heard that noise, by the way, that's her moaning at me, sitting right next to me because she knows that I'm pissed at her. Alice. So I'm riding solo today. the whole point of that story was because I need to get a podcast up. I need to get an episode up. It's been about 10 days and I feel like kind of out of my rhythm. And I want to get back into the groove of things. So there's something that's really been on my mind that I want to talk about, and it's something that I've written about in the past. And it's something that over time I've become more and more engaged with because I feel like there's too many people in the entrepreneur kind of society and entrepreneur mind frame that are buying into this concept of quote hustle. I don't know how many times I've seen on Instagram people taking selfies and saying hashtag hustle, hashtag team no sleep, hashtag no days off. And I want to address that. And I go back and forth about this for a lot of different reasons. But ultimately, I think through my own 8 years as an entrepreneur, and especially over the last 4 years where the success of my and our businesses have like really started to take off, I've learned some important lessons that I think can translate well and I think can be really valuable to aspiring entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, and even entrepreneurs that like are starting to get a little bit burned out. Even people that are still kind of working those 16-hour days nonstop, asking themselves when they actually get to stop and enjoy the fruits of their labor. So here's what I've come up with. I see the value in hustle. I think that in my own work life, I spent the first 3 years of building my business and building my brand, especially one brand in particular. I would wake up early. I would stay up late. I would write constantly. I would build a social media following. I would interact with every single comment. I would talk to every single person on Facebook Messenger. I would interact with people on Twitter. I would go to every coffee lunch, um, every coffee meeting possible. I would take every lunch meeting I possibly could. I fucking hustled my ass off. And I value that. I value having that mindset and that drive because I think that although that sort of hustle mindset can lead to a lot of waste and a lot of like wasted energy, there's something that happens when you're so hyper focused on something where like all of your energy is sort of placed on achieving a particular goal or advancing a particular cause. And I think there's value in that. I really do. I'm not coming at this podcast saying like hustle is a waste of time. Everybody needs to have a work-life balance. Like I think that's kind of bullshit. I think if you really want to achieve something, then you got to get after it. No question. What I'm saying, and the point I'm trying to make here, is that hustle within itself is basically worthless. There's there's very little that can be gained by just kind of running around in circles and quote hustling all the time. If you don't have focus and if you don't have direction to go with that hustle, then you're not going to get anything out of it. Ultimately, what it comes down to, what it really comes down to, is focus. And as I've said, in my own experience over the course of the last 4 years in particular, I've seen over and over again that it's more valuable to put 4 hard hours in a day, 4 focused hours a day, where you turn off your distractions, you turn off your cell phone, you rid yourself of all the constant dings and notifications and alerts and little red fucking dots on the corners of your cell phone that make you stop what you're doing and do something else instead. The value is in being focused. So what does that mean? How do you apply that kind of stuff? I think that this is something I wrestle with a lot in my mind because I don't ever want to tell somebody that they shouldn't hustle or that hard work doesn't have a place in being an entrepreneur. I like the quote that The Rock has, always be the hardest worker in the room. I really live by that. And I pride myself in like being able to push myself harder than most people can because I know at the end of the day, most people are going to quit before I'm going to quit. That's a reason why I think exercise is so important. That's the reason why I like working out the way that I do, and especially kind of like the endurance type stuff that I do, because there's something to be said for stamina. But people are misconstruing this concept. Hustle does not mean running around in circles all the time. And it does not mean talking on the phone all the time and taking every single conversation that you possibly can. It's infinitely better to combine hustle and focus. And if you were to ask me which one is more important than the other, I would say hands down, focus is more important than hustle. No question about it. None whatsoever. Because it's amazing to me how distracted people are that seem to be, quote, hustling. the term hustle is like so synonymous with social media, right? It's so it's so easy to be busy. It's so easy to be busy. So easy to be moving around a lot. You know what? I had a I had a job when I was in high school at this place called Tires Plus, and this is an experience that I reflect on a lot. And it was a moment that like really taught me a valuable lesson that always stuck with me. So my job was to sling hoops. That's what we called it. Basically, I used to just change tires. I wasn't a mechanic. I was like a young kid that was just kind of making some money. So as a car would come in and they needed to either like change their tires or rotate the tires, you would put the car on the lift and you would pull the wheels off, and then you would put the wheel on like this machine, take the air off of it, kind of put a little kind of like a little flat crowbar to stick it in and get some space in between the tire itself and the rim, and then the rim would kind of spin around and it would pull the rubber off the wheel, kind of like in the same way that you're opening an envelope or something like that. And these cars would come in and we would get really busy, and I used to get really nervous. I used to get super anxious because there's people waiting, and like when people are at the mechanic, they got places to go, and sometimes they're on their lunch break, and you can kind of feel people like standing in the waiting room with their arms crossed, just like, man, how much longer is this going to take? So I'll get real nervous, and I would try to work as fast as I possibly could. And there was this guy that I worked with. His name was Bernie. His name was Bernard, actually. We called him B. Sometimes we called him Bernie. And about 2 weeks into my job, B pulled me aside and he used to call me Young Bull. And he said, "Listen here, Young Bull. You need to learn how to not move around so much when you work." Because in my opinion, I thought, or at least at that point in my life, I thought that being busy meant that I was being more effective. I thought that like moving fast and trying to do a million different things at once, and you know what, like while this tire is kind of sitting here and I'm waiting for something, I could be doing this at the same time and trying to multitask. And Bernie saw this and he grabbed me and he said, "You need to not move around so much when you work." He said that to me, and although it hit me at the time, it wasn't until like seeing how moving a lot and how trying to multitask and doing a lot of different things at the same time over the course of like the next 10 years of my life, where like I slowly really started to understand exactly what the fuck it was that Bernie was trying to tell me. It's not always about moving around. It's not always about taking another phone call, another meeting, starting another project. I've seen over and over and over again. If you look at Bill Gates, right? If you look at Steve Jobs, if you look at Warren Buffett, they've all said, and they've all been quoted to say, that it's like picking one thing and just being ridiculously laser fucking focused on that one thing. So look, what I'm saying is that there's value in hustle. There's value in hard work. There's value in being the hardest worker in the room. And like, I really mean that. I live by a lot of that stuff. I'm by no means like a work smarter, not harder kind of guy. I think working hard is the differentiator. It's the one thing that you can always control. You can always control your effort. But this concept that it's the hustle that is going to breed success is like a lie. It's a lie. It's a fucking like made up illusion that people are riding on that message because it's like part of their marketing ploy. It's like part of their identity. It's part of who they are as a business owner and as an entrepreneur. They can sort of use that as like a rite of passage, like I hustle. And anytime I see that, I think to myself, you're moving a lot when you work. You're moving too much. So aside from me ranting, there are some kind of more health related type stuff that I've been looking at when it comes to some of these concepts. This morning I was tweeting back and forth with Rand Fishkin. He is the CEO of one of the most prestigious and most successful SEO companies out there. He's a CEO of actually I don't know if he's actually the CEO anymore. I know he's one of the founders, but of Moz.com. And he sent out a tweet this morning that he and I were kind of shooting the shit and going back and forth with about the next time someone uses, quote, hours worked like a badge of honor, show them this. This is a study from hbr.org. I'm going to link up this study. But there's a quote here. There's a quote here in this tweet, which is pulled directly from the study. And I'm not going to read the full study because I don't want to fucking bore you guys on this podcast. But here's the quote. There's a large body of research that suggests that regardless of our reasons for working long hours, overwork does not help us. For starters, it doesn't seem to result in more output. In a study of consultants by Aaron Reed, a professor at Boston University's Questrom School of Business, managers could not tell the difference between employees who actually worked 80 hours a week and those who just pretended to. While managers did penalize employees who were transparent about working less, Reed was not able to find any evidence that those employees actually accomplished less, or any sign that the overworking employees accomplished more. Come on. What is the point, right? This is exactly what I'm saying. What is the point of building a business? What is the point of being an entrepreneur? It's about growing your revenues and about creating a product and about productivity. It's about being productive. It's not about being busy. It's about being productive. It's about from when I start working to by the time I'm done working, what has actually been produced in those hours, in those minutes even. What is here on this earth that was not here before? That's what it's about, and that's the benchmark that entrepreneurs should really be striving for. It's not about hours put in. There has to be a pinnacle point to that. There has to be a purpose for those hours. And that purpose always needs to be productivity. It needs to be what it is that you're creating, what it is that you're making. Who are you actually serving? It's not about being busy. Let me tell you something, guys. As I've gotten a little bit older, and I'm still a young guy. I'm 32, and I still have a lot to learn. I'm not by any means saying that I have it all figured out. Not at all. But as I've gotten older, I have for sure learned the value of leisure. I've learned the value of sleep. Definitely learned the value of sleep. This hashtag I don't need to sleep kind of shit is silly. It's dangerous. And you're just clouding your mind. I've learned the value of taking the time to appreciate people around me that I love and that I really care about and that I want to, share experiences with. I've learned the value of nature, of the difference between not having earbuds in my ears and listening to the trees blowing in the wind. And in order to do that, you got to kind of take time to yourself. I've learned the value of reading. I've always been an avid reader, but I've changed my approach on that as well. My thought process always used to be let me blow through this book because I need to absorb as much knowledge as possible in the shortest amount of time. But now, when you take focus and productivity and you apply it into something like learning, you're not just reading for the sake of reading. You're soaking it in. You're really finding ways and you're applying it and you're reflecting upon what it is that you've read and you're reflecting upon other people's experiences that they share in their writing. All of these things that I've talked about are just as valuable as being busy, way more valuable than being busy. And so you can have it all. Ultimately, this is the biggest lesson that I've learned. You can have all of it. You don't need to sacrifice sleep and relationships and leisure and hobbies. You don't need to sacrifice all of that shit just to build a business. Being an entrepreneur does not mean that like everything else goes out the window. In fact, it's better. You're ultimately going to be more successful if you take the time to work and you work and you focus and you give that time your full on attention. And then when you're not working, you focus on that. You focus on sitting down and enjoying a meal with your spouse. You focus on spending time with your children. You focus on reading that book. You focus on being on the phone with your mom or your dad or spending time with people that like you really, really care about. When you're an entrepreneur, it's an all or nothing type game, yes, because like only entrepreneurs know what it's like to actually put like their own livelihood at risk and to put it all on the table to actually achieve something. But the illusion is that once you put yourself out there, that your only option is to give everything you have to that. And that's ridiculous. Because not only are you sacrificing everything else, you're actually hurting your chances because you're not giving your brain and your body enough time to sleep and to recuperate. You're not taking care of your health. You're probably eating super shitty food, which is like putting your physical and your mental state in a non-optimal state to be the best you can be and execute upon your tasks the best that you possibly can. I don't even understand how this is something that like we still think is debatable. The science is so clear on this. The science is so clear. Sleep, eat well, take time to rest, and focus when you work. When in doubt, if you're having a hard time telling the difference between where the line is between working hard and where the line is between like just overworking to the point where you're not productive, just look at your feet. Look at where you are. Pay attention to yourself and look at how much you're moving when you work. Just like Bernie said, try not to move around so much when you work. Man, I feel good about this episode. This is something that is really, really, really important to me because I know that people who are passionate about a cause and about a business have a way, way higher chance of succeeding and about changing culture and about having a positive impact in this world if they respect themselves enough to understand the difference between hustle and focus. I hope you join me next week. I'm still going to publish that interview with the shenanigans with the goat yoga. It's just going to take me like a shit ton of editing to try to figure out how to tell this story in a way that makes sense with my mic dropping out at certain points. I think I'm going to do a couple more like sort of rant episodes like this where I don't necessarily have a guest and I just have a topic. I have a lot to say, and my course is taking off. If you haven't gotten my course yet, you can download it for free, or you can sign up for the 2-week course. It's a 10-part series at timstodds.com. And I feel really, really good about the direction of everything. And I appreciate you guys listening, and I appreciate all the feedback. It's really been an honor, and it's been a joy to start this podcast and kind of learn these lessons along the way. All right, guys, give me a like, give me a share, give me a follow, give me a fuck you. Tell me that you think my work sucks, whatever. I'm just really, really grateful for your attention, and I'm grateful that you're following along. Talk to you soon. Peace.